Welcome back to Situation Room. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and continuing with the conversation, we were talking about Operation Bunyan al-Marsus and the ceasefire that has been mediated by the US. Of course, we talk about the impacts this has had in the South Asian region. We saw how tensions were at an all-time high, but with this ceasefire, we see the prospects that are going to go on with the way forward, as Pakistan has responded in a very befitting manner. And of course, now there will be talks regarding Kashmir and the Indus Waters Treaty and India's illegal and unilateral actions that it has continued to pursue since the past many years. We'll be talking in detail with regards to the new guest that we have in the studio. Dr. Salma Malik has joined us, who is a foreign affairs expert, and along with that, on via Zoom link, we've been joined by Brigadier Nadir, who is a defense analyst. Thank you both for your time and being part of the conversation. Dr. Salma, when we talk about the situation in the South Asian region, we saw how tensions were at an all-time high. Pakistan was showing restraint but gave a very befitting response. And now a ceasefire is in place between both the countries. The diplomatic success and, of course, the military success that we see on the Pakistan side, before we start off our conversation, I'd like your comment on that.
First of all, heartiest congratulations, Rafae, that we sit and celebrate with a lot of grace an immense victory that Pakistani forces and the country of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan have all together achieved. The people didn't flinch even in the face of extremely dangerous situation with drones falling on their heads, not on military installations but on their heads at civilian population. So this recklessness by India was taken with a lot of courage and grace by the people, by the government that kept people extremely in its confidence step by step, and by our security forces who very silently did and said that we will do it, and they did it. Mashallah, and hats off to everyone. Now the question is, now what? And the unfortunate thing is that Modi is a person who is so dangerous and reckless that with this bloody nose, he would be not only frenzied, he would get rabid. And what type of a response is he thinking of? God forbid. In that sense, it's not that we don't have the resolve, the courage, the way to retaliate, but the very fact is that his level of madness is very difficult to reach. So what is required is a lasting peace, a peace that puts a closure to this particular battle, because the war is yet to be won. This was a battle, and the battle was absolutely wonderfully won by Pakistan, although we did not write the script, but we terminated at a beautiful ending.
Definitely. And as you said, as you mentioned, a lasting peace. Of course, the Kashmir dispute, it is one that has been standing since decades.
Absolutely.
One dispute that the international community has, the United Nations has given resolutions on. India itself has committed to the international community to hold a plebiscite, but when we talk about the Indian side and what we see, no regard for international law, no regard for the commitments that they've made, and they get to choose their actions and they get to act with regards to their own ideologies with immunity from all the international laws and the systems and norms that are in place. What do you say about that, holding India accountable for its rhetoric and its rogue actions?
You see, unfortunately, during the current times, there is a trend where you have a willful violation of international norms, not only by India. India has been doing it many a times, but by Israel. And no one has done anything to check Israel on that. They tried the waters, and they felt that the waters were so shallow that they could get away with anything. So they have been doing what they've been doing for the last 1.5 years. And no one has done anything in that regard. So that kind of puts a question to how strong or re-strengthening the UN system, re-strengthening the international norms. And this is the same type of approach India took. I think throughout the crisis, this crisis that unfolded on 22nd of April to now, I think Israel has been giving India all type of lessons and all type of advices which totally went south when it came to the Pakistan story. But the fact is that there has to be a very serious thought and a revision of why and how some states are allowed to break the norms and get away with it. And unfortunately, the US is also sort of guilty in this, and a lot has happened. Trump has a very different take on how these things should work. But the fact is that if you need to have international peace, if the US can actually see that yesterday or this last 1 week heralded a new chapter in the human history, and that is the Asian century is there, absolutely there. No longer is China just an economic power. China is now a military power. It's a superpower now in all regards, and it has been tested and tried. And here you are talking about the international norms and the breach of international norms. So unless and until there is an equitable following of the international norms, respecting them, then you will have rogue actors like Israel and India and other actors who rewrite the norms and make a new world order.
Well, definitely important point raised, Dr. Salma, and respect for international norms and laws is what should be seen and observed. I'd like to include comments from Brigadier Nadir in the conversation. So thank you for joining us as we talk about Operation Bunyan on Marsus. A very befitting response given to the Indian side. Pakistan had been showing restraint and a very, very effective response given in regards to the face of the Indian aggression that we were seeing. Of course, a ceasefire is now in effect, mediated by the US. We also saw how there was a stigma with regards to a South Asian nation, with regards to conventional warfare. With the response that Pakistan has given to the Indian side, what would you comment on the military readiness, the operational readiness, the military might that Pakistan has displayed, not only to India, but the world at large as well?
Pakistan has won this short, intense conflict with India. Maybe it's a chapter in the ongoing war, but this one has been won by Pakistan. And the US brokered ceasefire is only because Pakistan not only defended itself, it struck back, unnerving the Indians and bringing consternation in their ranks. So what all has happened, I'll not repeat the events because everybody, in fact, the whole world knows that. It's also not just known to Pakistanis and Indians. It's very globalized, this whole short, intense war that took place or conflict. But the two main events were, first of all, when the Indians launched their Air Force in an epic battle. The Pakistani Air Force, as always, rose to the occasion. And this was, mind you, one of the biggest air battles in recent history. And not only the biggest, currently the most high-tech, because the other battles, that is Ukraine-Russia or Israeli Air Force, well, the Ukraine-Russia is a mismatch in another sense, and the Israelis have no opponent, no Air Force opponent worthy of, matching them so far. But this one was very evenly matched. The Indian Air Force outnumbered the Pakistan Air Force 2-1 almost, and in some, overall, in some places, even more than that, much more than that. Despite all that, and despite having some high-tech planes, Pakistanis shot down Rafaels, Su-30s, and all the best the Indians could field. So this was not a small event. It's not just an India-Pakistan war, air conflict in which Pakistan has won. It's having effects all over the world. See the global reactions, the write-ups, the global aviation, even a new chapter in air warfare and air-land warfare has been added. So this is not not just one tactical engagement. It has strategic effects, it has geopolitical effects, and it has effects on weapon technology. So I'm trying to say that which will come out in time. So this was the first part that Pakistan did. This broke the myth of India's air dominance or ability to achieve air supremacy, because if they have to launch their land forces as they've been, or their strike corps and armored divisions, or they have to bring out their naval fleets, the aircraft carriers closer to Karachi, or boasting as they have been of doing a blockade or even attacking Karachi, as you've heard on the Indian media and all that, it is not possible unless they have air supremacy. Otherwise, they will be sunk or they will be demolished by our Air Force. This is one. And after that, the second thing which happened was that when Pakistan struck back, the counter-strike that, or the riposte, which was basically again of the PF with its hypersonic missiles, the Fatah, MLRS, and even cyber and other electronic warfare. All that brought about a semi-paralysis in the Indian mindset, because the Indians were not expecting the Pakistanis to be so effectively targeting them. And there are reports and, analysis that had this continued, this Pakistani riposte, it would have paved the way for an air corridor deeper in India, through which Pakistani aircraft, Air Force and Pakistani missiles could have gone very deep into India and brought about mayhem. So that is what prompted the Indians to phone the Americans, the Turks.
Brigadier Nadir, of course, the response given by the Pakistan side, of course, it is something that the whole world community is a witness to, and India itself, it knows what kind of damage was inflicted on it. But when we talk about the Indian side, as you also mentioned, do you think they can be trusted? They held the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance, which they could not do unilaterally. They abrogated Article 370 and 35A, which they could not have done unilaterally, and now a ceasefire mediated by the US. Do you think Narendra Modi, as Dr. Salma also mentioned, a madman right now who is in a fit of frenzy and with regards to the embarrassment that he faces domestically, do you think he can be trusted with regards to a ceasefire?
Before answering this, I must pay a word of tribute both to the Pakistani military leadership led by COS General Said Asim Munir, the air and naval chiefs, and everyone down the line, all soldiers, sailors, and airmen of Pakistan, and the entire people of Pakistan and our media, because entire nation fought like one possessed beast and won this. This is a must to salute our whole nation rising to the occasion. Now coming to what you've asked, there is no question of trusting the Indians. Even if this present regime is not there and some other regime is there, political regime in India. What happened to Kashmir? Have you forgotten what happened in 1948? What happened about the UN resolutions? Have they honored any of the commitments? If we think that the Indians are going to relent on Kashmir, we are sadly mistaken. Although, despite this has been an awakening call, and they will be pursuing, what happened in 65 in war, in the Euphoria of Pakistan's being able to stop. Pakistanis were very happy. But then what happened? The Indians planned 1971. So I would say, put a word of caution here to all Pakistanis and friends of Pakistan, that Pakistan must be ready for another Indian war or conflict or revenge or whatever the plans of aggrandizement and geopolitical oversight, geopolitical agenda that they have, or obsessed political ends that they want. And as far as the few main issues are concerned, because now in the post-conflict negotiations, which are said to be part of the ceasefire, Pakistan must make sure, I am repeating this, Pakistan must make sure that certain things are brought into this discussion and ensured as part of the overall peace process. Otherwise, this ceasefire will not be durable and there will be another conflict, maybe a bigger war. That is, first of all, Kashmir. Kashmir is not India. It has to be liberated from India. The people of Kashmir have a right. The UN resolutions are out there. Secondly is water. This water is not India's. And thirdly, the terrorism India is doing in Balochistan and KPK, it cannot be ignored. This is that has to be done. And the UN and global bodies and the United States and China and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and other countries which India appealed to for ceasefire, they should be brought into, so there is global mediation and India cannot walk out of this agreement, whatever takes place.
Really important point raised, Brigadier Nadir. Please stay with us as I include a comment from Dr. Salma Malik as well. A man is known by his word and the commitments that he makes. It becomes more critical when we talk about the International Committee of Nations. India, this has not just been happening with Pakistan. India does not owe up to its commitments, whether it be the commitments made with Pakistan, whether it be the commitments made to the international community.
True.
In the face of the ceasefire that is in place, the Indus Waters Treaty that India held in abeyance was something that the World Bank was a party to. In the ceasefire, we see the US as a party to it, but we know India, it does not owe up to its commitments. How do you see Pakistan trusting India in the face of this ceasefire that is in effect and the way forward that Pakistan should go with?
Right. Rafae, I think that's a very important point to deliberate on, because many people in Pakistan, because this is the first time for the new generation to face such a conflict and have a proper peace ceasefire taking place. Many people are mistaking a ceasefire for a peace deal. So the question that is arising, and a very legitimate question in the hearts and minds of people, is that, oh, does that settle Kashmir, or does that also settle the water issue? The ceasefire means the end of the kinetic chapter of what Modi has opened. And as Brigadier Sahib is also mentioning, that it may be a long war, and I also said that, but the battle has been won by Pakistan, despite the fact that we didn't initiate it. But the battle has been ceased fired. Yet you see, as you were also mentioning, and we were discussing it before the program, the LOC, as the reports are coming in, still remains hot. And that has always been a barometer where the LOC remains hot as a way to vent the tensions, which is a very tragic and unfortunate thing to happen. And then last night there was a media blitz once again from the Indian side about drones coming this way or going that way, and all of that frenzy that they are trying to kick in, so that Pakistan does something and the ceasefire breaks. But Pakistan throughout has been so restrained that it has been like an extreme act of restraint. That should be a book in itself. But the fact is that we will remain restrained, we will remain responsible, but India has all the capacity to once again indulge in some misadventure. And that is going to provide them with a pretext to break this ceasefire. So to remain honored to this commitment, I think after tomorrow's review, there has to be a coming in of the US, the middle powers, Saudi Arabia, Iran, several other countries that put their good offices to broker this ceasefire, that they broker a permanent end of this hostility and not a repetition of this action, because Modi is actually in a very, very difficult situation right now. He has to bring back that, lost is a very small word. I think the totally drained out political capital that he was planning to build as a result of this misadventure that he had done. Today, where India should have been celebrating, being the 11th of May, the celebration day for the Pokhran, the Buddha smiled. The Buddha is benevolently smiling for peace, not for a nuclearized India today. And this is something Modi cannot digest. So I fear the worst coming from India's side, from Modi's side, and to prevent that, all these responsible international actors have to really put in their good offices, and this is nothing to talk about from a position of weakness. This is a position of strength. This is the cost 1/5 of global humanity will pay, unless and until they take responsibility for that. Fair enough, Pakistan will do whatever it has to do. It has done. Pakistan is not there. If Pakistan goes, 1/5 of humanity also goes. India will go with us. South Asia will evaporate. So they really have to take this thing seriously.
Dr. Salma, there's one aspect that also comes to mind when we talk about Indian side. We know how they've had disregard for the international laws and norms, and they have disregard for misinformation campaigns that are being curbed internationally.
True.
They also have a certain impunity from the international laws and accountability mechanisms that are in place. US being a strategic ally of India and also the champions of human rights, as they call themselves. Yet their strategic ally continues with persecuting the minorities, not just the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, even the lower caste Hindus. They continue with their oppressive policies in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But those champions of human rights do not call out their strategic partners for their ignorance to human rights, for their ignorance to the oppressive policies that they're pursuing, and for their ignorance to the international norms and systems that are in place. Do you think India can be relied upon when we talk about the US mediating or asking India to de-escalate and have a say in a voice within their system?
You see, with regards to South Asia, the classic anomaly is that any actor that comes to South Asia to mediate, and primarily it has been the US, has always crisis managed. A crisis erupts, go and manage this. This time it was beyond a crisis, this time it was an all-out war, right? So they came, they put their good offices, and the crisis once again has been managed. As we keep on repeating that this is round one, there are other rounds to follow, and India will, because they have the book in their hand and they're trying to write the script, and they think this is Bollywood where they can churn out one flimsy film after another, putting all those fancy gadgetry and actors who save the day and become the heroes and the superheroes and all. This is the very unfortunate factor that the international community is not realizing, that unless and until they enter into a conflict management and resolution mode, this crisis management thing is not a lasting peace. For lasting peace, they have to get into conflict resolution mode, and the conflict can only be resolved if they address the primary issues of Jammu and Kashmir, occupied illegally by India, the water issue that India has once again erupted, and of course the minority factors that they have to put their record correct. They ended up attacking their own Sikh community in Amritsar yesterday. But I'm sorry, I'm taking a little longish answer, but there's another very important thing that India needs to see. Whatever the outcome be with Pakistan and India, that's a bilateral thing. US has to go back on its scoreboard and realize, is India good enough, the regional policeman that they were planning it to be? Can India be really that strategic ally to be given all these fancy gadgetry and have them being dropped like stones in the middle of the night? This is a very serious question India needs to ask. I mean, if they cannot withstand Pakistan, how are they going to be the proxy monitors against China? So let's see how the US looks at it.
That's a very important point that you raised, and I'd like a comment from Brigadier Nadir with regards to that. Of course, Brigadier Nadir, this is something that being talked about. It's not it's not the machine itself; it's the man behind the wheel, as they say it in simpler terms. We saw a lot of war hysteria and war jingoism from the Indian side, but when we talk about confrontation, we know how the Pakistan side has inflicted heavy damages on their side. When we talk about the weaponry and tech manufacturing companies, we also saw how some of their shares plummeted while some they skyrocketed. Your take on how this stigma with regards to this equipment and weaponry, the West and the East debate that we saw, how it is also being resolved through this incident?
As I said earlier, this conflict between India and Pakistan has not only regional, that is India-Pakistan manifestation, it has global, geopolitical and high-tech and hyper-tech influences and reactions and analysis and all that. Because it's basically two countries fighting with two different mindsets and with different weaponry and with different ideologies, with different everything. And Pakistan has come on top in this conflict. Again, I say we should be ready for the next one, because in other channels I've said, we have won this chapter of the war, but the war is still on. So we must be ready and we should not become complacent. This is what I keep repeating again and again. Coming to your question, see, what has happened? It's first I'd like to say something, before the technology aspect of warfare and weaponry. I think another aspect which we need to understand, I mean, for the Pakistani audience, our people, is the geopolitical aspect. We also need to change our policies, Pakistan's policy. First of all, we need to have a clear Kashmir policy. I have been saying it repeatedly, writing about it, talking about it internationally also. Pakistan must claim all of Kashmir, because Indians don't accept any part of Kashmir with Pakistan. They say that all of it belongs to them. We have to talk of Kashmir being Pakistan, only then can we talk with them. That is first. Second is the India policy. We have tried appeasement and so many other forms of policies for so long. Now the time has come after this conflict that we should be very clear. While Pakistan wants peace, strives for a peace, aims for peace, India is not peaceful. It is expansionist, it is hegemonistic, and it has an oversized geopolitical agenda in which there is no such thing as Pakistan. So unless we understand that as a nation and we deal with it, only can we move forward. That is at the policy level. Now coming to this third thing I want to highlight regarding relating to this conflict which has happened these few days, 3-4 days, all that happened, or a week in totality. The global reaction, that is now very much, because I'm writing a detailed article on the lessons of all this and all that happened and the lessons that come out of it. Contrary to what people thought or conventional wisdom, India is isolated and Pakistan has been supported. Pakistan has been supported by China, Turkey, and Azerbaijan openly, and it has been supported by many other countries, even United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and many others indirectly in many forms because Pakistan didn't start the conflict. It's not the aggressor. So when they were talking of de-escalation, it suited Pakistan all along. I mean, the only thing that Pakistan wanted was that once the Indians have done this first part, Pakistan would do its part, that is, carry out counter strikes. And in both these, I mentioned these two main events, that is the Air Force battle that took place, which was an epic battle, said of over 120 aircraft or more than that. And not only just aircraft, it had AWACS, and it had electronic warfare, and it had, the whole gamut of modern high-tech, super-tech warfare. And secondly is the Pakistan's use of hypersonic missiles and even cyber war and even MLRS, that is the rocket artillery, which became famous in
Brigadier
recently.
Nadir, it's good that you mentioned hypersonic missiles, as of course this is the time when Pakistan had also there were claims, but of course there were also suspicions and eyebrows with regards to Pakistan hypersonic capabilities. It has shown its capabilities. I'd like your take on Pakistan's hypersonic missile capabilities and how they demonstrated this capability as well.
Well, exactly, I was coming to that. This is a phenomenal jump in terms of weapon technology, the use of hyper technology, hypersonic weapons by Pakistan from the air to ground and from ground to ground in other forms. And they're hitting their targets with lethality, precision, and not being intercepted. That's the most important thing. It shattered the myth of India's ability to intercept what Pakistan sends across. You know what the implication is? The implication is that if Pakistan's hypersonic missiles can get through and Pakistan's rocket artillery Fateh can get through and Indians can't intercept them, then it means that Pakistan's nuclear deterrence is totally viable. I mean, that's the actual connotation, why the Indians got unnerved and why they started making calls all over. Because that was the Indian fear. It is not only that Pakistan, well, a word on nuclear things also, because this nuclear threshold, I'm writing this in my article so I can share a bit with you. In this, nuclear threshold got lowered. It got lowered. There is no Indian army invading Pakistan big time or Indian Navy coming to Karachi. And yet, because of the missile war, because of use of hypersonic missiles, because of use of MLRS, the next tier was, weapons of mass destruction. So, in terms of not only technology available, but their operationalized use. You see, you may have weapons on the drawing board or weapons even in your arsenal, but ultimately it's the battlefield. Remember, it's the battlefield where they are used, which shows the world what you have and what you can do with it. And Pakistan has proved that it has the latest high-tech weaponry, some of them from China. But by the way, for the information of everybody, some of these lethal weapons are Pakistani-made. Just for the information, people keep saying that Pakistan doesn't make anything. Well, Pakistan has made some super-tech weapons which can, defeat or destroy the enemies of Pakistan.
Well, definitely, Brigadier Nadir, and it's just not the technology and weaponry that the battlefield demands. It's also bravery and courage, which the Pakistani side has shown. We've also been joined by Ms. Naila Chauhan, former ambassador. Always a pleasure to have your valuable insights, Ms. Naila. Of course, when we talk about the past few days and how the situation stands at the moment, a very befitting response given to the enemy, given to India, and it is something that they're going to remember for decades. But it's not just a military response that Pakistan has given. There's also, on the diplomatic front, we've achieved great success. Nick Robertson, he talked about how India, yesterday he talked about how India begged the US for a ceasefire. Of course, diplomatic success on Pakistan front, I'd like your comment on that.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to your program. Yes, indeed, it's a great victory for Pakistan, not only on the military front, but also diplomatic. As you know, we are the non-permanent members of UN Security Council right now, and we called for emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. We held closed-door meetings of the UNSC with all the non-permanent and permanent members in it, in which Kashmir issue was discussed. And we showed the world that Pakistan is a mature, responsible state that does not do knee-jerk reactions as did India. And we don't like to get into blame game that India does. So India got discredited and Pakistan got respect and credibility at international level, regional level, and obviously in the OIC also. So, Alhamdulillah, it was a great diplomatic victory for Pakistan.
Definitely, Ms. Naila. And another aspect, of course, when we talk about the Indian side, and even in the past few days, we know how it held the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. The World Bank was a third party to that, and India cannot unilaterally hold it in abeyance. We also know that India, it doesn't have a lot of regard and respect for the international laws and systems. Do you think India can be trusted with regards to this ceasefire that has been mediated by the US?
I agree with you that India cannot hold Indus Water Treaty in abeyance because there is no clause in Indus Water Treaty on abeyance, suspension, or termination. The only provision is peaceful settlement of dispute through either international neutral arbitrator or to go to the court of arbitration. These are the options. Now, as far as the ceasefire is concerned, I would agree with the preceding speaker that India cannot be depended upon. They called for ceasefire through negotiation, although they are not accepting it. Now they're telling the world that it's a bilateral thing that was done, but actually it was mediation by a lot of countries, particularly United States of America and President Trump in particular. So now they are very uncomfortable with it because until now they were calling Kashmir as integral part of India. This fake false flag operation that they did actually brought Kashmir back to international level, and it backfired on them. So now they don't know what to do, and I'm confident that they will try, Mr. Modi in particular, the kind of person he is, will try to undo this ceasefire. So at this moment, we have to be very cautious and we have to brief international community on the violations that India is doing after the ceasefire. So they are still not respecting it and they might want to escalate it. So we are very careful about it, we are cautious about it, but we should be positive also. We should keep the international community abreast of what's happening.
Definitely. Thank you, Ms. Naila Chauhan, for your valuable comments. Of course, always appreciated and lovely talking to you. Coming back to the studios and towards Dr. Salma Malik, as Ms. Naila Chauhan mentioned, Kashmir, it has come on the international limelight once again. India was claiming that it's a bilateral issue, but with the ceasefire that is in place, we now know it is something that is an international deal, and as it was in its original nature as well. Your comment on the diplomatic success that Pakistan has been facing, that has achieved, and of course, how the way forward it should be for Pakistan from here.
First of all, India needs to decide what lateralism that it needs to carry out. They started with UN, then they went bilateral after Shimla, although it was not a bilateral thing, then they went unilateral, now they are going back to bilateral. So what is the stance? And to be very honest, they are always in a bilateral bind. So them asking US to save their soul is not anything new. I mean, we honestly have this history of Indian misadventures and always the US coming to its rescue. No. Anyway, when it comes to Kashmir, the US has also committed itself that it would help India, Pakistan resolve Jammu and Kashmir issue. Now, what resolution would actually mean here? Would that resolution actually also bring relief to the persons under the Indian occupation? Would that mean going back to Article 3, going back on Article 370 and 35A's abrogation? This is not going to happen. The US cannot make India undergo such a radical action. But how and what would be the terms of US helping? I mean, this is the moment where the US or any country can make endless promises so that at least there is a cessation of fighting. But once the thing goes cold, that is where we require a peace process with commitments, involvement, and up and followed through by international actors, especially US, because the US has that type of clout both with India and Pakistan. Both have a checkered history with the US, yet still the US capital on with India is far greater at this moment, and they need to really broker this thing with India. So when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir, the US has to be very clear that the resolution that they are talking about is not a resolution which only favors India. The resolution has to be of a nature where the people under Indian occupation for the last so many decades find an equitable relief. There is also a permanent cessation across the ceasefire line. It is not creation of the border. There is actually looking at Kashmir for what it is and not making it an India, Pakistan, China story and reducing its value and worth to geopolitics only. It is a humanitarian crisis and it has to be treated at that point.
In light of that, when we talk about the resolution of this issue, do you think mediation is what Pakistan seeks, or its accountability for India's illegal and oppressive actions? Because not holding, not committing to the UNSC resolutions, revocating Article 350, 370 and 35A unilaterally and illegally, and now holding the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. It's a pattern of India that we see.
Absolutely.
And it is something that they do unilaterally and illegally. Do you think there's a mechanism should be in place to hold India accountable for all the illegal actions that it has been doing since very long, which has now brought this dispute to the brink of a whole war between both the countries, that too which is being escalated by India itself?
You see, there are three angles to this question. Number one, the entire world coming to the brink. Since 2000, Bill Clinton's coming to South Asia and the Chhattisgarh incident, Kashmir has been sort of reduced to a nuclear flashpoint only, which kind of makes it strategically very important, but it takes away that humanitarian aspect of Kashmir, the accountability factor. Ideally, it should be an accountability, and all accountability dating back from as many years as possible, at least from Modi's time, if not beyond that, because many of the actors do not live now, are not in this world to be held accountable. But unfortunately, accountability will never happen. So at least the bare minimum is a resolution, a fair and proper resolution in which the Kashmiris get the best share of this peace deal. But at the same time, in these long 5 years since 2019, India has been engineering willfully on Israel's suggestion a demographic change in Jammu and Kashmir, and it is very proud to do that. And if it has made all this misadventure to make the US come in focus and then press them into plebiscite, having a plebiscite on their terms, let's see how it works. This backfired, inshallah that will also backfire.
Definitely. And Ms. Salma, there's another aspect, of course, when we talk about the diplomatic front. In the past few days, we've seen how Pakistan has achieved great success at the diplomatic front, despite India, who was once saying that Pakistan stands diplomatically isolated, but it had to come to Pakistan itself to attend the SCO last year. On this front, on the diplomatic front that we've seen, Pakistan has achieved great success. At the same time, it has exposed India in front of the world, its hegemonic designs in front of the world, and how India faces diplomatic isolation at the moment. How do you think Pakistan can build on this momentum for greater diplomatic heights, as Pakistan also seeks economic cooperation, also seeks connectivity and cooperation with countries in the region as well?
We have 2-3 weak points. The biggest weak point that Pakistan has is its economics. We really need to do something drastically to strengthen our economics to such a point that we don't get hurt. You see, Pakistan in this 1 week performed at a bare shoestring budget for the military. The type of system that we have is commendable, but it's not, and we were pitched against the world's best militaries all in one in India, and still we did it and we made it. So that's so commendable. But the fact is that we need to really put our economics in order, and India is doing everything in its capacity, non-kinetic and kinetic, to take away that economic wheel from us. The second Achilles heel for us is Balochistan, where they have absolutely waged a non-kinetic war and they're disturbing it. Pakistan has to learn, and we have to change our tactics in handling the problem in Balochistan. More kinetic action, more India's victory there. So, these are two factors. The diplomatic initiative or the diplomatic action that Pakistan is doing, I think we need to step it up. We really need to go and hammer our perspective, which is the moral and ethical perspective, to all world capitals, go and knock at the UN, tell them how India was wrong, tell them what Modi has tried to do to the world, bring it to an end, and really go on a aggressive diplomatic offensive, as much as it takes, have special envoys, especially dealing with this issue with Jammu and Kashmir and the water issue. I think now that we are done with this, our next battle is where our citizen diplomats, where our special envoys, our regular envoys get onto this battle, where they talk to all the world capitals about Indian aggression.
Definitely, Dr. Salma Malik, a very important point made. Aggressive diplomacy is the way forward, as said by foreign affairs expert Dr. Salma Malik. And of course, Pakistan should build on the momentum that it has achieved since the past many days. With that, we come to the end of Situation Room, and as we were discussing, that brings us a conclusion to the conversation that we were having. Tensions in South Asia, Operation Bunyan Marsus, and the ceasefire that is in effect, the way forward for Pakistan, aggressive diplomacy, and to build on what it has achieved. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Dr. Salma Malik, foreign affairs expert, who had joined us in the studios, and Brigadier Nadir, defense analyst, who had joined us via Zoom link. Thank you both for your time and being part of the conversation. See you all same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.